Okay, so we are now going to session 1, collaborative governance, the role of the provinces in Pakistan's social protection landscape. And I have the pleasure to hand over to a colleague who actually going to moderate that while we are setting up a little bit the stage. As you can see, we're trying to create a little bit this World Economic Forum style talk show style panel, but we also have a setting the scene. So I will hand over to the senior policy advisor of GIZ who works in Islamabad. He is a public finance management specialist with a focus on social protection and development finance. He has worked for the German Ministry of Finance. He worked in Indonesia, now is based in Islamabad. So please give a warm welcome to your moderator for session 1, Frank Schneider.
Thank you so much, Joost. Yeah, good afternoon. It's a pleasure. My name is Frank. You can call me Frank Schneider, Senior Policy Advisor, and I have the pleasure to moderate this first session together with our excellent speakers. There's a couple of renovations going on here, but that doesn't need to distract us. We have roughly, let's say, an hour plus. Mr. Chimo's also there. Very warm welcome to you. It's good to know you just came right from the airport, so we are complete for this session. And yeah, we want to start with this, the last session before the lunch break. I hope you can still bear with us and you're not too hungry, and let's do this now together. So the topic of this session is collaborative governance, the role of provinces in Pakistan's social protection landscape. And as a little detail and a little background to this discussion, I believe all of you are very much aware that devolution is a key aspect, a key concept of governance in social protection, but also in general in Pakistan. And now, since the 18th Amendment, the provinces have a much bigger role to play in the design, in the implementation, but also in the management of social protection. So therefore, we believe we should discuss the status quo of devolution in social protection today. And also, more importantly, perhaps, we want to discuss trajectories, the way forward for a more, let's call it, harmonized, collaborative governance. So that is the idea, the background to this panel discussion. And we're going to do this together. We have excellent speakers today. And I would like to welcome them all to come to the stage now. First and foremost, we have Mr. Yusuf Khan, ex-secretary of the Pakistan Administrative Services. Yeah, please, welcome. Mr. Yusuf Khan has more than 30 years of working experience with the public sector in Pakistan. I say that while you're coming here. And most importantly, he had been in leading roles with BISP and also the Ministry of PAS. So welcome to the stage. I would nonetheless ask all our other speakers to come to the stage as well. And we will have the CEO of the Punjab Social Protection Authority, Mr. Ali Shahzad. Please welcome. Please come to the stage. We have the CEO of SSPA, Sindh Social Protection Authority, Mr. Shamiullah Sheikh. Welcome to the stage. Now we have the Chief of the Social Protection Section in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We have Ms. Shazia Atta. Please join us here at the stage. Thank you. We have the Joint Secretary right from the airport, right in time, Mr. Shahzad Chima, the Joint Secretary of the Ministry of PAS. Please join us. And last but not least, we have the Chief of the Section Foreign Aid and PND at Balochistan, Mr. Imran Baloch. So please join us here. Yeah, and without further ado, we only have one presentation, and I'm very delighted that you have agreed to deliver this presentation, so I hand over the mic to you. Mr. Yusuf Khan, before I do this, this is the very important, how do you call this? The clicker, very good. And only one more announcement, we are having the Mentimeter. So you remember what we did this morning, we had this exercise with our mobile phones, and if I'm not mistaken, but yours is nodding, very good, we will have the QR code again here on the stage. So you just take a picture, and whatever question comes to your mind, please type this into the Mentimeter. And I'm hoping if we are quick and if we are answering the questions in a quick way, then we have a lot of time for your questions. So please do come up with those questions, but do type them into the Mentimeter. And I very much hope that the QR code will be shown here. So thank you so much. And without further ado, I'm handing over the mic to you, Mr. Mr. Yusuf Khan.
Thank you. I'll just stand there and, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Yusuf Khan. I was Secretary of the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation and Social Safety when the Bhurban conference took place, and one of the signatories of the Bhurban Declaration that we all signed. If you look at the Bhurban Declaration, the foremost recommendation was about a coordination committee. Since this is a framing presentation, I will be presenting a framework here. This is a draft document which was prepared by the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation, and introducing it, the key functions of the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation are written down under the rules of business of the government of Pakistan, but I will only get your attention to number 3 and 4 on the slide. One of the functions of the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation and Social Safety is the coordination with all relevant stakeholders, development partners, non-government sector. And number 4, the Poverty Alleviation Coordination Council. These two merit our attention here. Now, so the ministry, with the consultation of provincial and regional governments, drafted the framework for poverty alleviation and social protection. And the reason was, basically, I'll read these, to harmonize and synergize federal and provincial strategies and policies. Number 2, eliminate fragmentation, minimize duplication, reduce gaps, improve coverage, upgradation of the registry, and the national reporting on the progress made under social protection. The framework document, as of today, the draft framework document, as it stands, talks about laws and policies, about assessing performance, talks about digitization, upgradation of the database, and the two-way data exchange between the provincial socioeconomic registries and the national socioeconomic registry. It talks about co-financing, and it talks about national reporting. I will not go through the other slides, but I want to introduce the fact that this draft framework divides all the functions of each of the provinces and the federal government separately. For example, it gives out separately the role of the federal government, realizing very clearly that under the constitutional division of work, social protection does fall as a provincial subject. But there is a role for the federal government to play, and this has been listed out in the document. The document will be available on the website soon. There is a separate list of roles which deal with the provincial governments, and then there are the joint responsibilities. I'm not reading each one out because of time constraints, but these are all given out in the draft framework document. So why do I keep saying draft? Because there are certain actions required still. That this national framework, and this is my last slide, this national framework needs to go to the Council of Common Interests. Unlike the federal cabinet, which only has representatives of the federal government, the Council of Common Interests is kind of managed by the Prime Minister and the chief ministers of all provinces. That's where it needs to be discussed and approved. And in order to operationalize this framework, there is the Poverty Alleviation Coordination Council, which needs to be revived and given fresh TORs, and that is the potential coordination committee which the Bhurban Declaration talks about. That's the first point in the Bhurban Declaration, the coordination committee. And this Poverty Alleviation Coordination Council ought to be the coordination mechanism, the ceiling under which everybody gathers from around the country and discuss this agenda. Thank you very much. I'll leave you with this, this document, and maybe the representative of the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation might want to have words to say about how they're going to take it further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf Khan. That was a very nice setting the scene presentation for our discussion, and I believe this created a lot of questions and interest on your side, comments. So please feel free, just as a reminder, to use the QR code and do post some questions. But without further ado, I would now like to move on to our panel discussion. I already introduced our esteemed speakers to us. We have representatives from 4 provinces and Mr. Chima from the federal level. But I would now like to start with you, Mr. Ali Shehzad, CEO of PSPA, Punjab Social Protection Authority, in asking, the PSPA is perhaps arguably the most advanced social protection agency at the federal, provincial level in Pakistan. And I wonder what are the key aspects that helped PSPA to thrive in the post-18th Amendment scenario?
Thank you very much, Frank. It's a pleasure to be here. And the question we are grappling with is, of course, of paramount importance given the spirit of because it's an inter-provincial and inter-federating units. It's a very delicate balance. And when we are discussing these things, we cannot do that without assessing the devolution and the fiscal federalism and the spirit of autonomy under which the 18th Amendment was carved out. Since the question is that why was PSPA able to flourish or thrive in a post-18th Amendment scenario, so we would first have to sort of look at what the 18th Amendment was all about. It was a sway of the pendulum from centralization towards decentralization. And at the time, I mean, in retrospect, we can always, hindsight is 20/20, they say. And we have this advantage of judging, how it was carried out. But maybe it was absolutely within the need of the time, but it was slightly abrupt in the sense that it devolved responsibilities to the provinces and the federating units, which they were not operationally prepared to handle. And at that time, the provinces who had otherwise a better governance muscle, I would say, they were able to carry that load more efficiently than the others. And since the Punjab government is otherwise, is a well-developed organizational structure with a higher governmental capacity, I would say, the systems were in place, so it was easy to put up an authority which functioned the way it was needed to function. However, it is not just this debate we are having right now is not restricted to social protection only. The debate came about both in education and health, the other subjects which were devolved to the provinces. And they were initially devolved, but subsequently the federal government and the federating units both felt that the federating units cannot operate in absolute vacuum in the sense with absolute autonomy at their level, and some sort of a central coordination role, which Yusuf Khan Sahab has also alluded to, is required to actually, make and harmonize the different schemes which are going on in different provinces. So given that there was initially a sway of the pendulum towards more autonomy, but then there was slight moving it back because, then the central government, the federal government still developed those or retained those functions which the provinces were not fully equipped to handle as efficiently as they were being handled or they were being executed from the federal point of view. Given that, once it was devolved, I think the second most important factor after the institutional capacity itself is the political will and the political ownership. And I think the Punjab government at that time realized that, social protection is a very important area. It's a cross-cutting thing. It touches upon everything, and frankly, there was an absolute vacuum of this sector at the provincial level, because health had been there, education was both at the federal and the provincial level, other entities were both present at the federal and the provincial level, but poverty-related infrastructure was absolutely absent at the provincial levels. And that is why Punjab government at the time realized that this is a gap that they should plug. And I would say that once Punjab Social Protection Authority was put in place, it was also tasked with a lot of important responsibilities. It was not just to create something and not do anything about it. It was created and it was entrusted with huge social protection programs of conditional and unconditional cash transfers, and there was a lot of space for the authority to think and to propose, and it was not just top down. It was not just the political leadership thinking of something and just asking the Social Protection Authority to do it. It was also that the Social Protection Authority had this room or space to actually think of creative programs and propose to the political leadership, which they then owned and allowed the authority to execute. So I think in general, since we sort of had a head start, and because the baseline, the underlying institutional capacity of the government itself was an important variable or a predeterminant of how or why a social protection authority can thrive. And that, coupled with the political ownership, I think that is what led to where PSPA is here today.
Thank you so much. That leads us in some ways to our next speaker, Sabiullah Sheikh. I find it particularly always very interesting to also compare the developments and see where the political headlines are, where the developments are taking place. So therefore, I would like to ask now Sabiullah Sheikh, who is the CEO of SSPA, the Sindh Social Protection Authority. If I may say so, the SSPA is a younger organization. It has been given its incredible mandate, its fascinating mandate only in 2022. So it's a relatively young organization. And I want to ask, what are the necessities, what are the key necessities for this, let's say, younger organization to perform on this very ambitious role?
Thank you, Frank. Yes, we are a young organization established 2 years back. And as in general, the challenges that every young organization faces, we were not different. Just to go into a background a little, we have made quite a bit of progress in last 1.5 or 2 years with the support of World Bank. And as we speak, we have one program running right now, that is Mother and Child Support Program, that is established in 15 districts and covering around 800 health facilities. We have dispersed around 2.25 billion rupees to 500,000 beneficiaries. So coming to the point that we identified some key areas that we had to work on. When we started, obviously there were no offices, there was no HR. It was urgently required that we complete our recruitment process. That was done quickly, and then we had to establish our administrative structure in all 15 districts and in the headquarters as well. So that was done within a span of like 3 to 4 months, and that was our starting point. Then we had a contract with PPHI. We established our counters in the first phase in 400 health facilities, and gradually we scaled those up. So right now we are focusing on institutional framework. The law is in place, but we do not have policies and the social protection strategy. Punjab has taken the lead, and probably they got their strategy approved recently from the cabinet, and we are following the similar course. And then we are investing heavily on our systems. We have realized that MIS and the payment systems are the backbone. We do have an MIS system that was developed in the pilot phase, but we need to have an integrated management information system, system that is integrated with NADRA, with BISP and other departments as well. And we have a payment partner as well. Recently, we have had contract with Bank Al-Falah, and right now we have started real-time payments to the beneficiaries. That has given a real boost and confidence to the beneficiaries as well, that when they go and visit and complete their compliances, they will get beneficiaries, they will get the payment at that point in time. And then we have around 100, a team of 100 people working with us. We do realize that a lot of trainings and capacity building need to be done. That is important, and we are also focusing on our team as well and on our partners as well. And last but not the least, we also feel necessary that we need to have a unified beneficiary registry at the provincial level. Again, I would say that Punjab has started, and what is a good thing for us is that we take learning lessons from other provinces, and especially my counterpart, I always just call him up and take guidance, and whatever we decide, we take learning lessons from other provinces. So this is how it is going.
Thank you so much for your very comprehensive picture of the challenges and the upcoming work. So a lot of challenges and a lot of involvement from stakeholders needed to get all of those challenges and tasks going. So therefore, that leads me to Ms. Shazia Atta, the Chief of Social Protection Section from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And again, in comparison, we, as GIZ, we have been part of this ongoing work in KP. KP has been eagerly developing the strategic framework of adaptive social protection, also with support of GIZ. So therefore, I wanted to ask, possibly also in comparison, if you like, what are the current developments to further strengthen adaptive and social protection in general in KP? What are the next steps to take? Do you have a mic? Yeah.
I think my mic is working. Am I audible to all? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Frank, and greetings to my fellow panelists and esteemed colleagues and everyone here. It is truly an honor to be here today and discussing the collaborative governance. Well, social protection is not just about policies, programs, or the budgets. It is about people, I would say. It is about making sure that no one is left behind, no matter where they are and who they are and what they do. So in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we don't just participate in the conversations. We are leading the way Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was the first province who officially notified its social protection policy. And now we have taken it forward and we have approved our social protection strategy as well. So I would like to give you an insight into the key developments that Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been made so far. And we often talk about the service delivery, but here is the truth that if systems don't talk to each other, services won't either. So we have initiated a comprehensive technical assessment of 12 key provincial departments to understand how data is currently managed. And based on this, we have developed a charter for integrated social protection information system. That is a framework that will connect databases across departments to ensure a targeted, efficient and transparent support. So we want to move beyond the manual, the paper-based processes and towards a real-time digital social protection ecosystem, one that makes life easier for the people it serves. If we talk about the legal foundation, so we see that policies change and the governments change, but a strong legal framework ensures the continuity and institutional stability. So we have conducted comparative study of Punjab and Sindh social protection authorities to learn from their experiences. This has informed our draft legal framework to establish a dedicated provincial social protection authority, and a move that will bring better coordination and stronger institutional backing with a long-term sustainability to support the social protection in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So this draft is currently under internal review, but we are not rushing to launch the KP Social Protection Authority just for the sake of launching. We want to do it right. And the other important thing is people-centered approach, I would say. So no policy can succeed if it does not reflect the real needs and realities of the people it is meant to serve. That is why we have taken an inclusive approach by conducting a comprehensive stakeholder analysis to ensure that every relevant department and institution is part of the conversation. We have been holding the key informant interviews, the KAIs, with national and international social protection experts to gather the insights and co-create meaningful solutions. We have been developing a stakeholder engagement strategy as well that defines who needs to be involved and how and at what stage, because we believe that collaboration must be intentional and not incidental. If we look at the climate and economic shocks, as we know of the geographical conditions of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we live with the constant threat of natural disasters. We've been witnessing the floods and the IDPs because of the terrorism hit areas and the extreme climate conditions that we have in shape of gloves or many other things. So the economic fluctuations, the natural disasters and the climate-related risks, so social protection cannot be static. It needs to be adaptive. We are integrating the climate vulnerability data into our social protection planning. Our Provincial Disaster Management Authority, the PDMA, is acquiring digital elevation model DEM for disaster-prone districts. My colleagues from PDMA who are here and will be participating in the panel discussion in a couple of days will elaborate it in a detailed manner. So they are doing it to map the risks and preemptively design the interventions. Social protection won't be just reactive in such case, helping people after disasters. It will be proactive and protecting them before the crises strike the areas. Another activity or the development that we have been working on is the about how much we spend. This is not actually the social protection. It's about how well we spend it. So we have developed the first ever monitoring and evaluation framework for the social protection in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. This framework includes indicators for 5 major programs tracking progress, not just numbers, but in real-time impact. We have also created a theory of change covering 36 social protection programs and ensuring that every intervention aligns with long-term and measurable outcomes. And the last one is that it's about the smarter coordination for a greater impact. So we all know that overlapping projects and fragmented efforts waste time and money and all the resources. So that's why we have taken deliberate steps to harmonize our efforts with national and international partners. We have established a coordination mechanism with the lead management sciences institution, that is the IM Sciences, and our public policy and social protection reforms unit at the Planning and Development Department and the ILO and NGN, ensuring that resources are aligned and the expertise are shared and the duplication is avoided. So this is not just about working together, it is about working smarter. So when we talk about the collaborative governance, I would say that let's make it something that means action and not just discussion. So that is a few key developments that Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been doing.
Yeah, round of applause, indeed. Thank you so much for a comprehensive account. And if I may say so, it's quite striking that a couple of words, possibly buzzwords, do come up in all your accounts. So be it interoperability, data, the legal framework, strategy. So there seems to be a couple of common objectives, a couple of common challenges you're all facing, and it's exciting to be part of this. Also very good, I believe, that in the afternoon we're discussing how the provinces can learn from each other in an even better way. So I believe there's really a couple of messages coming across from this interprovincial exchange. But nonetheless, I wanted to take the opportunity also to involve Mr. Shahzad Cheema, who is the Joint Secretary of the Ministry of PAS, based in Islamabad. So from Mr. Cheema, from your federal point of view, from your bird's eye view, if I may say so, how would you say, how did the provincial governance on social protection evolve since the 18th Amendment?
Thank you, Frank. I'll just not go into the genesis of creation of Ministry of MOPAS, which has been given by the Yusuf Khan Sahab. No, I have just heard the valuable insight of my colleagues from the provincial authorities, and this is there is a sense of pleasure to find out that in the backdrop of the holistic national poverty framework, which was shared with the provinces as of today, twice as of today, that provided some clues, obviously, that how the things at the provincial level, especially in the post-evolutional scenario, needs to be taken forward. In fact, I believe that whenever we have to see the social protection and adaptive social protection, we'll have to take into cognizance the key factors that really determine the landscape of poverty landscape of Pakistan, which starts from the multidimensionality to depth and severity, to geographic and spatial disparities, to demographic and socioeconomic factors, casual factors and drivers, resilience and adaptability, policy and programmatic responses. So more or less in the Pakistan poverty landscape, these 7 things appears to be quite conspicuous. And these 7 things, I mean, once, until and unless there is no collaborative governance, I mean, and we may not be able to get advantage of the available strategies with us in Pakistan. For instance, we implemented National Poverty Graduation Program with IFAD, the kind of trajectory which IFAD provide for the poverty graduation, and chipping in of social protection and adaptive social protection amply provides a room for all provincial players, private stakeholders, and partnerships to get into the thick and thin of things. And then again, if we look into the regional context, we cannot yield the desired dividends of the social protection and adaptive social protection, especially in the context of climate resilience, until and unless we are not mindful of the regional models, like BRAC in Bangladesh, which is implemented over lots of countries, that amply speaks of fostering partnerships between governments, with the stakeholders, with private sector and in international development partners. And then even if we go to India, the Mahatma Gandhi, Rural Guarantee Act is again a wonderful example, wherein we really find that small public works chip into the body of this social protection and adaptive social protection, which means that you will not only be making the lives of individuals better, but will bringing a kind of indigenous trigger to the economy, that the tangent of the economy gets across with the minor developments. So in the backdrop of all this, we have been successful to advocate time and again with everybody across the landscape, that there is nothing, a kind of threat perception which we imbibe from one another. We just need to get into a win and win ladder, and the win and win ladder could only be done through the way we have developed our framework after a very long, holistic, detailed consultations. And that framework is now, as of today, in principle stands approved by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. But you see, it is as Yusuf Khan Sahab mentioned, that it is interprovincial kind of scenario. So now what we are doing, we are incorporating some of the valuable recommendations which we received from the provinces time and again into the body of our summary, and then we'll be floating this to our provincial stakeholders and other stakeholders for their valuable feedback before we place that summary in the CCI. And that's on the card, nowadays. So in order to create a kind of harmony, in order to bring a synergy, in order to do away with the fragmentation, there is need that, okay, regardless of the fact that every province is establishing its own data, the data needs to be spoken to the dynamic National Socio-Economic Registry of BISP, which will help us to undertake the inclusion and exclusion error, and that will help us make our data to speak. And then there is a need to make data interoperable. And once we go to the provincial setup, we come across there are farmer registries. They need to be catalyzed. There are labor registries. They need to be catalyzed. They need to be linked. So linking these and then finding out the unified kind of interventions in the social protection and adaptive social protection with the adaptive designs for new interventions, I believe it's a kind of win-win situation for the entire nation and the stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chima, for this very comprehensive overview and the challenges we are facing together, also in taking it up with NSER, for example, the database, the registry at the federal level. So that basically leads me to my further question, and also discussing collaborative governance, the topic of this afternoon discussion. I want to give the floor to Mr. Imran Baloch, the Chief of Section Foreign Aid in Balochistan. And assuming that you are facing similar challenges like those we've just heard from the panel, taking it up, what is your wish for an enhanced collaborative governance framework for social protection in Pakistan from your perspective in Balochistan?
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here and represent government of Balochistan. To me, enhancing collaborative governance in the landscape of social protection in Pakistan requires collaboration and partnership between different stakeholders like the federal government, the provincial governments, the development partners, civil society, as well as academia. When we talk about the collaboration at the level of the province, Unfortunately, government of Balochistan is lagging behind. Governments of Sindh and Punjab, they are lucky to have social protection authorities, which is doing the social protection system delivery in their provinces. Unfortunately, we are lagging behind. However, we have made some progress in this regard, and we are in a process to set up a social protection authority in Balochistan, and for that we have requested the federal government for technical and financial assistance. We are also happy to have Suhail Shah from the World Bank, who has been kind enough to help government of Balochistan in establishing social protection authority in Balochistan. To enhance collaborative governance in the landscape of social protection at the federal level, I would say that there should be a central body which should consist of members from the provincial governments, members from federal departments, as well as development partners, which can sit together to set policies, align those policies with to the needs of the governments, and also make decisions about the funding mechanism. I mean, it will be a good opportunity for the government of Balochistan to learn from the experiences of the other governments in Pakistan. I would also say that public-private partnership is very important as far as social protection is concerned. It can be done in Pakistan. Another way to enhance collaborative governance is to ensure that community participates in social protection interventions. We should also strengthen the capacity of the local government to make the people get involved in development interventions. In Balochistan, we have noticed that we should have a centralized database in which we can track where social protection interventions are required, where they are not required. So there should also be a unified database at the country level so that we can target social protection interventions in Pakistan. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. I wanted to remind you also of the Mentimeter. You've seen the QR code. I just had a look meanwhile, and we do have some very interesting questions already. These have also been rated, so please do rate those questions as you like. No worries, I will have a second round of questions for all of you, but I feel like we should also take up one of those questions which have come up through the Mentimeter, and the highest rated question is around evaluation. So to anyone who feels like answering this question, how can we best evaluate the social protection programs at the provincial level? Should we use these forums, I believe forums like this one, to present and revisit them? Who feels like answering this question?
Can you just repeat the question?
Say again? Can you just repeat the question? How can we best evaluate the social protection programs at provincial level? Should we use these forums like this one, to present and revisit these provincial social protection programs?
Definitely, these forums are very valuable place to determine the nature and extent of interventions taken at the provincial levels, and to find the kind of whether they are being replicated, they are being multiplied, or simply it's a duplication of some work with a new theme. So these forums especially are important in the sense that they really inform us the stock taking of the entire activity. The stock taking of entire activity, finally once that is available with everyone, that really gives us some more clarity to go for the unified kind of interventions in the domain of social protection, I believe.
Yeah, thank you much. I believe that is very much agreeable, and perhaps I would assume this is already something for the conference organizers to take up for a potential Bourbon 3 conference, to do some sort of stock take and comparison. So now that we're discussing these ideas, I think it's coming up. Who was about to come in? Okay.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to comment on this? So the question is interesting, but I mean, we first need to determine what does the term evaluate mean here. If it's about the impact evaluation, then of course these forums are sort of not suited, because these forums are here. We can present the program's design, and the evaluation, the impact evaluation comes in, you know, as it does. There's a whole framework for that. However, so far as the evaluation of the designs themselves are concerned, the program design, the targeting part of it, the social benefit delivery part of it. So I would say that these forums can be a good place for the provincial governments and even the federal government to bring in their program. But to be very honest, the programs, the very fact that different governments can design their own programs is what lends freedom and flexibility and, you know, diversity to the design of the programs. And yes, with all due respect to my senior colleague here, that, you know, we would want to replicate good programs being done in one federating unit or the federal government in the other units, but at the same time we would want to customize them, tailored to our needs, our ground realities, our preferences of our political governments within the federating units. And yes, so far as I would not say evaluation at these forums is probably the best thing to do, but, you know, deliberations on the programs and the improvements therein, you know, the programs, some of them are time limited, like we are having a Ramzan Nigeban package in which we are going to distribute cash in Punjab. And this is for the first time that the government of Punjab is doing it. So there can always be design improvements and those, but at the same time, there are currently running programs which are running for on a long-term basis. So we can all bring in our programs and, you know, benefit from the advice from the other stakeholders and partners and implementers to refine and improve them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Possibly also food for thought for all of us to take away. I can also say from the German perspective that in a federalized setup, in a setup of devolution, it's always difficult to determine where does healthy competition start, what can we learn from each other, and where do we need a more centralized approach, what do we learn and take up from each other. So that is perhaps nothing for us to finally decide, but it might be a healthy way of learning from each other. And maybe if you allow, I come back to you in a related sort of affair, congratulating you and Punjab for the creation of the Adaptive Social Protection Steering Committee last year in October 24, with a notification by the Planning and Development Department. So therefore, if you still allow this question, should other provinces emulate this from your perspective?
Absolutely. So like I would refer to what Melis said in the presentation just before we started this panel discussion. And she said that so social protection generally is a cross-cutting and multi-sectoral endeavor. But so far as adaptive social protection is concerned, it is all the more so, even more so, Because, earlier we had, X number of actors in the landscape, and by adding another layer of climate-related climate shocks and climate disaster response, climate-related resilience, we have another set of factors which, it's X plus Y now. So the real challenge is to navigate this whole landscape and ensure that the vertical and horizontal linkages are in place. And there is like the will and the drive is coming from one particular platform. And the very fact that, when we were discussing, Johanna was part of those discussions, when we were trying to wrap our heads around, how do we navigate this adaptive social protection program? And, there was PSP, the Social Protection Authority that was involved, that was the Disaster Management Authority that was involved, it was the Environment Department, it was the Environmental Protection Agency that was involved, and there was the Planning and Development Board that was involved, the Finance Department, and you name it. Because when you say adaptive social protection, it's a small term, but when you you unfold it, it expands, and it covers a whole lot of space and a whole lot of actors. So that is where we decided that, and I advised Johanna, and she was kind enough to sort of concur, that we need a supra forum. We need somebody who is bigger than the finance department and all the department. It has to be a supra body which would be able to not only bring all these different actors to the table when they call them, but also push them towards and steer them in a certain direction to make sure that all of them are working in tandem towards the goal that we want to achieve under the adaptive social protection. So that is how the genesis of the adaptive social protection program steering committee came about. And I think given that the nature of adaptive social protection is cross-cutting, nebulous, and multi-sectoral, by all means, I don't think there is any other way any government can, handle this thing without having a, you may call it whatever you want. We are calling it the program steering committee. Somebody might call it a council. Somebody might call it anything else they want, other federating units or the federal government. But the real thing is that it has to be a structure which is superior to all the components that are, and the stakeholders, so that it can actually bring people together and nudge them towards a certain action. So that my advice would be that it should be, because there's no other way around it. If you want to really push the agenda of adaptive social protection forward, there's no other way to go about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I couldn't agree more, and the developments underline that this learning is happening, and people do compare and learn from each other. And perhaps in contrast to the earlier questions you also received, I would possibly like to ask all of you now the same question. I would like to ask you for a very brief answer so that we have another round for the Mentimeter. But my question would be, now taking this collaborative governance forward, the doing it together approach, the mentality of comparing, learning from each other, whatever it is in detail, then evaluation, perhaps not, perhaps it's a earlier step. I'm also reminding our guests that Sabiullah Sheikh, you have received a high-level delegation from Punjab in December 24. I'm aware that there's a delegation coming from KP very soon. So there is some exciting learning happening. You're hosting colleagues from other provinces. So the question to all of you is basically, what are the modalities for this collaborative governance? So how can it happen? Perhaps in one or two, give it 3 buzzwords. How can it practically happen? What are the modalities for exchange, for learning, for collaborative governance? What do we need to look at first in order to make this happen from your perspective?
So Recently, there has been a lot of talk about collaboration between the federal government and the provinces and among the provinces as well. But what I feel is that signing agreements, MOUs, that might be the easiest thing to do. But moving forward from that point, we face reluctance. Maybe it is not because of the departments not wanting to interact with each other. Maybe it is because of the systems that are in place. For example, when we talk of NADRA, when we talk of BISP, when the provincial governments make a request that they want to have collaboration or integration with those databases, the provinces do not have those systems in place. Maybe their MIS systems are weak or based on different technologies, or there are no firewalls or security systems in place. So we need to have common systems, number one, the political will and the framework at the national and provincial levels, so that collaboration is well structured.
Thank you so much. I would now like to hand over to you, Mr. Chima.
I will again speak of the National Poverty Framework, which we have developed over a long period of time. And again, I will point attention to this, of the stakeholders to the fact that why in the post-evolution scenario the Ministry of MOPAS was created. Because you need to have a national footprint. Poverty is a local thing. I mean, it has multidimensionality, it has foots in provinces, but it cannot be optimized in the sense of social protection programs, adaptive social protection, and until and unless we don't get on to the ladder with this National Poverty Framework, which speaks of the Poverty Alleviation Coordination Councils. And Poverty Alleviation Coordination Councils have lots of working groups at the provinces and at the regional levels. So collaboration between these various groups can really help us to take the stock of what is happening. I'm not saying that we should be evaluating each other's program, but at least we should be evaluating the nature and extent of interventions and the uniformity of those interventions and the value of adopting some single payment system and co-sharing of things. That is important from perspective of the federal government. And again, for the international reporting, for against the SDGs, for the international commitments, we need to have one umbrella organization. And the rules of business of MOPAS simply speaks of policy coordination, best practices, and research. We are not into project implementation. Provinces are doing implementation. These things are in the provinces, education, health, everything. We're not asking for the implementation. We are just asking that there has to be a kind of synergy in the policies which we adopt for social protection or adaptive social protection. And especially in the backdrop of climatic hazards, the kind of hydrometeorological disasters that we've been experiencing, floods for quite some time, there is no other solution than the collaborative governance and the adaptive social protection. Because collaborative governance helps you to go for fostering of groups, fostering of partnerships within the governments, with the stakeholders in the private sector, and that can provide you a cushion against the kind of resilience which is really highly required in especially the agriculture sector of Pakistan, the labor sector of Pakistan, informal economy workers. So all these things needs to be integrated. There are horizontal and vertical programs. We experimented with just a few organizations which we brought under the purview of the Ministry of MOPAS, like Pakistan Baitul Mal, then Basic Income Support Program, then Poverty Alleviation Fund. The reason was that to at least to create a semblance of collaboration amongst the lead agencies engaged in the social protection activities. And now as of today, my data of Pakistan Baitul Mal speaks to the data of National Socio-Economic Registry. So if data speak, there are APIs for the data, it is interoperability, and then there is a provincial governance that will really help us to get the desired dividends, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe also looking at the Mentimeter, someone has rather commented, I should say, in saying very straight to the point, I believe the federal government should devolve all federal SP programs to provinces and focus only on policy coherence across provinces. And the statement has been rated up there. So I believe people feel like bold action. That is maybe the way I would interpret it, but I still wonder also from my assessment, being not so long in Pakistan, are we there yet at all, or are we on the way there? So that is really potentially also a challenging situation to assess. So therefore I would like to give the floor also to you, Ms. Atta, in asking what are the modalities and are we there yet in terms of handing over capacities and even more decision making?
Well, I would say that we must work towards a seamless interprovincial social protection system, one that allows people to move without losing their safety nets. See, if the social protection should not stop at provincial borders, it should go beyond that. A laborer moving from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to Sindh should not lose access to essential services. And a mother who is receiving benefits in Punjab, if she is relocated to Balochistan, so she should not have to start over again. And just imagine a young girl who is getting stipend in Gilgit-Baltistan should have the same opportunities if she moves towards another province. So what I suggest is that there should be an inter-provincial coordination mechanism, and we should not be just participating in such forums and just getting along our way and forgetting about the things. We should contribute meaningfully to shaping the future of the social protection in Pakistan.
Thank you so much. Very much agreeable, and I would like to hand over the micro to you, Mr. Baloch. The modalities for collaborative governance.
As far as I'm concerned, I think that social protection should be devolved to the provinces. I mean, the provinces should be given the chance to prepare policies tailor-made to their own needs and requirements. I would be happy if Benazir Income Support Program is devolved to the provinces so that they can take the charge. However, still, I think that there should be a central council at the federal government which should prepare and disseminate policies and guidelines to the provinces with regards to social protection.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I believe that very much also concludes in some ways this discussion. So I believe a lot of food for thought, a lot of developments at the same time. Linking it is a challenge, learning is an opportunity, but I believe more work probably needs to be done also together with you, with the provinces, to assess, to take stock of the situation and to let's say respond to those challenges you're still facing, which are not obviously the same all across Pakistan regarding sort of the key developments and the ambition you're taking up at the provincial level with regard to the social protection initiatives you are driving up. I've just been given the sign by the key moderator that we are very much coming towards the end of the session. I believe we have addressed also a couple of questions from the Mentimeter, so unless you have something very urgent, a very urgent question coming up right now, I would say it's time for lunch. I believe you must be hungry. This has been a very exciting morning together with you. I want to say thank you to our excellent speakers. Let me also say, yes, round of applause. You know, the whole conference is very ambitious. We have a lot of speakers. You're seeing the agenda. We're going to discuss, we have the vice chairperson from Punjab here. We're going to discuss interprovincial learning right after this, right after the lunch break. So take this also as an opportunity to see who's around, who's there, who has which ideas, and continue those discussions bilaterally at the lunch break. So I believe by myself, I want to do this. I want to come back to you and talk to you on those exciting challenges. But without further ado, I would now hand the mic back to our lead moderator, Mr. Joost. Thank you so much, and handing back to you.
Thank you. Please give a hand to our moderator, Frank. So as Frank already probably analyzed correctly, you must be hungry. It's 1:30. So there is a lunch served where we had the coffee break. We're going to continue exactly in 1 hour from now at 2:30. Please come back on time. When Germans say 2:30, that means 2:29. So please try to estimate your time that we can start so we have sufficient time for our sessions in the afternoon. Please continue over lunch. Food is served. Thank you so much. See you in 1 hour from now.